and welcome back to the Mental Path Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Gretchen Gavero, a psychiatrist, psychotherapist, and I'm here to build better mental health habits with you. You know, I've always believed that mental health support should fit your life, not the other way around. So here we take the best of medical science, psychology, and personal development and mix it up to build practical mental health habits that really stick. Because to me, mental health isn't just about therapy or medications, it's about giving you real, tangible skills that empower you to feel better, think more clearly, and tackle life with more confidence. And the best part, these skills are totally learnable. Last week, we dove into time management as a form of self-care. How being intentional with your time isn't just about checking off boxes on your to-do list, but actually about protecting your mental well-being. Today, we're picking up that thread and taking the conversation one step further. How do you protect that precious time and energy when you're faced with expectations and obligations from family and your culture? For some of us, family matters quite a bit. They play such a huge role in shaping what we believe, what we value, and even how we define success. But what happens when their expectations feel off? When they just don't align with the life you sincerely want to live? How do you honor your roots while still staying true to yourself? And most importantly, how do you navigate setting those boundaries without feeling buried under guilt? Take a deep breath with me. Okay, let's dive in. Now, I know this topic runs deep and that every family has its own unique dynamics. I want to acknowledge right off the bat that for some of us, those family expectations can be really tough. Sometimes outright unsafe or unhealthy. If that's resonating with you now, please know that seeking support from people you trust, friends, a therapist, or a support group can help you find clarity on how to approach things or your next steps. In this episode, we will focus on practical ways to approach some common situations and set boundaries. Hopefully, they will give you a helpful starting point. Let's think about our upbringing for a second. From childhood, we're constantly taking in messages about what's good, praiseworthy, and what's not okay. And these messages don't just come through spoken rules. They often come from what was celebrated, what was criticized, the sacrifices our parents made, and the expectations and values woven right into our culture. There are so many factors and reasons behind these expectations. Sometimes they really do come from a place of love and wanting to protect you, like when parents nudge their children towards stable careers because they want to ensure financial security for them. But other times, these expectations are more about projecting their own unfulfilled dreams or wishes. Maybe your parents always dreamed of you becoming a doctor or artist because they never had the opportunity to pursue that path themselves. In your culture, maybe success has been equated with working yourself into the ground, and now you feel guilty anytime you even think about resting. Maybe family pressure on you to get married and start having kids is clashing hard with your own timeline, or even your desire to do things differently. And honestly, the hardest part? Even when these expectations come from love, they can still sting. I see this all the time, especially in people who are driven and passionate about their goals. They check all the boxes their family wants them to, yet they still feel like something is missing because those aren't their authentic choices. Something that I found to be so common is that in many family cultures, just talking about emotions is seen as taboo. In some families, being vulnerable and showing your feelings is just viewed as a weakness. In others, emotions are only acknowledged when everything's blowing up, but this is pretty rare in day-to-day life. This creates such a huge challenge because how can you even begin to set boundaries or advocate for your needs if emotions themselves feel off limits? How can we navigate this barrier? Well, start with self-awareness. Even if your family doesn't talk about feelings openly, that doesn't mean you can't build emotional intelligence within yourself. You can still practice recognizing and naming your own feelings, even if it's just privately. Don't suppress or ignore them. In conversations, you can use bridge statements Instead of jumping headfirst into deep emotional discussions that might feel completely foreign to your family, try framing your needs in a way that aligns with your shared family values. For example, instead of saying, I feel overwhelmed and I need more space, try something like, I know how much we cherish our time together, and if I have time to rest and recharge, I can visit you feeling refreshed and ready to spend time together. It's important to recognize your family's emotional limitations as well. Some family members may not know how to respond to emotions. Sometimes they were never even taught how. That doesn't mean you shouldn't express your needs. It just means you can expect some possible resistance at first. But stay consistent. Over time, your boundaries will slowly teach them a new and better way to interact with you. I encourage you to think of each awkward and challenging interaction as practice and a chance to train each other on how to connect, how to listen, understand, and feel heard and understood. Okay, so now we're going to shift the focus right back to you, because before you can set those boundaries, you need to have clarity on what you truly need and value. I want you to ask yourself these questions. What are your core values? Not your family's values, not your culture's values, your values. What truly brings you genuine joy? Really think about this. What parts of your current life align with your values, and which parts feel like you're living someone else's dreams? If there's no fear of judgment or obligation, what kind of life would you actually choose for yourself? When you have absolute clarity on your values, it's so much easier to have those tough conversations, make informed choices, and set boundaries with true confidence, because you're no longer operating from a place of guilt, but rather from a place of your truth. Now, let's talk about boundaries. First, I need you to know that boundaries are not about rejection. They're not about dishonoring your family or your culture. They're about protecting your mental well-being so that you can show up for the people you love without ending up completely burnt out, exhausted, or even resentful. So many of us were raised to believe that saying no automatically equals being selfish, and that prioritizing ourselves means that we somehow don't care about our loved ones. But let's challenge that idea right now. If you're constantly overcommitted, exhausted, and in survival mode, are you really giving your best to your family? Rather than thinking, if I say no, I'll just end up disappointing them. How about you try, if I say yes to absolutely everything, I'm going to end up disappointing myself. And when I'm in that vibe, I'm no good to anyone. Boundaries are what allow you to be truly present and engaged when you do show up, because you're making a choice from a place of love and not from a place of feeling obliged or forced to. Here are a few simple boundary examples. If your family expects you to be on call and answer every single call the second it comes in, try saying something like, Hey, I love keeping in touch with you all. I'm going to set aside time dedicated to calls on Sundays around 3 p.m. so that way we can actually have real focused conversations. I'm not distracted. Here's another one. If you feel like your arm is getting twisted and you have pressure to attend every single family event, try saying, I really cherish the time we spend together, but I also need to balance so many other commitments. I won't be able to make it to this event, but let's definitely make a plan for a one-on-one visit soon. Or you can try saying, I would love to come to Sunday dinner, but I'll need to leave by 7 p.m. so I can prep for my week. It's okay to use simple and clear statements that honor both the relationship and your own needs. And for the bigger boundaries, things like caregiving, financial expectations, or career decisions, those conversations are always going to take time and patience. But remember, your needs are just as valid and important as anyone else's. Now, let's reframe the way you think about culture. I see culture as a guide, not a policy. Instead of thinking, well, this is just how things have always been done in my family, how about trying to approach it with openness, like, how can I honor the traditions and beauty of my culture in a way that also honors my own needs? Maybe that means adapting certain traditions to fit your lifestyle, or maybe it means being selective about which cultural expectations you'll embrace. For me, being Filipino means that I genuinely value family and all of these important relationships. Not all Filipino families are like that, but in my upbringing, there is a certain closeness and value in prioritizing family. But that realization doesn't have to mean that I abandon my own well being in the process. I've had to learn how to integrate my cultural values in a way that feels healthy and sustainable for me. And you get to do the same thing. One thing that works really well for my husband and I is how aligned we are in being okay with nurturing our own four-person family culture, which does not strictly follow many of the stereotypical expectations that were passed down through generations in our families. That sense of freedom allows us to truly be in touch with what we want and envision for ourselves as a couple and for our kids. We celebrate the feeling of openness and the learning and growth we have in our family. Okay, let's be honest. Setting boundaries isn't usually the hard part. It's how you actually deal with the reactions you get from everyone else. You might hear things like, "But we're family. Family takes care of each other." Or, "But you've always done this before. Why are you changing things now?" Or even this, "Don't you even love us anymore?" I get it. It's tough. When we hear these statements, our hearts drop to our stomachs. But even within our own families, each person has unique beliefs, emotions, and life experiences. Each brain and their ideas about life is unique. You can't control their reactions. You can only control your own response. Here's something you might want to try to say. "I love you and I really appreciate you asking that. And the truth is, right now, I need to take care of myself." Or, "I know this might be disappointing or upsetting for you, and I respect your feelings, but I also have to be honest with you about what I can and can't do right now." Also, remember that context and frame are important when having these conversations. A few reminders. Be mindful of your timing. Challenging discussions may need to be planned, so give your family a heads up. Having these talks after work when everyone is tired and energy depleted may not be the best time. Pay attention to your nonverbal communication as well. That's the tone, volume, and body language. Choose kind words. In another episode, maybe we can discuss communication some more. Setting boundaries is not about shutting people out. It's about creating clarity. The more consistent you are with upholding those boundaries, the more others will eventually learn to respect them. If you take just one thing from this conversation, I hope it's this. Boundaries allow you to show up for your family in a way that is healthy, joyful, and sustainable. Saying yes out of guilt means showing up drained, stressed, and even resentful. Saying yes with intention means showing up energized, present, and happy to be there. And remember, you can love your family while still being true to yourself. And speaking of family stress, in my Filipino culture, it's pretty common to hear someone say, "You're giving me high blood pressure." Usually with a mix of love and exasperation, right? It's our way of saying, "You're stressing me out." Well, stress and family dynamics really can affect your physical and mental health. So next week, we'll be exploring how high blood pressure affects mental health. Your heart and brain are more connected than you think, and I'll explain how hypertension impacts your mood, focus, and emotional resilience, so don't miss it. Also, I just want to say, I'm still new to the podcast world, and I'm so grateful for your support. I'm genuinely enjoying preparing these episodes for you. And honestly, even if I reach just one person and help them feel a little more seen or supported, that's a huge win for me. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love for you to share it with a friend or leave a quick review. It helps me reach more people who could use a little extra support and guidance on their mental health journey. Until next time, be gentle with yourself. Take care.